But see, now I don't know where it records to, so I don't know how to do YouTube videos on it. But yeah, what the heck? I mean, we'll figure it out somehow. It's got to be working somewhere. So, one of the students said, what chapter are we
Kind of
on?
going in and out.
So
for
the
some
correct
reason.
answer is
Probably my phone.
me or you? Oh, okay. Here we go. Admit all. There we go. Flip and steal. Garcia. All right. And steal. Good. Okay, so chapter 14 is the correct answer tonight because we are talking about wheels and tires. Now, the reason we do this is because it's 80% of what we do in this class is going to involve something to do with wheels and tires, getting them on, getting them off, and doing it correctly because after all, there's a million ways to do it wrong, but we don't do it that way. So let us see what we can figure out about all of this. Oh, shoot. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Welcome, everybody. I'm not mad at the fact that the temperature came down. I'll tell you that, but
Oh, I know.
Going outside. Oh, I didn't tell you. Did I tell you they're going to put an epoxy floor on the shop?
Yep.
Yeah, so they moved everything out of the shop. So the
I tried to call you to bring your Christmas present from your end of school year present and see if you needed help, but I get your number.
I appreciate that.
Until the next day.
Yeah, I appreciate that. But, yeah, they actually moved everything out, and they moved everything out in like 4 hours. It was amazing, and
really?
they look like they just got out of jail like 15 minutes before they got the job. So that was kind of nerve-wracking, but
yeah, I bet.
I mean, what can you do? So my whole program's out there in containers right now. Anyways, what I wanted to talk to you about. It's horrible. Yeah, it's all tore up. They aren't even close. In fact, they're not going to do the floor until like the 19th, I don't think. So I don't know why they pulled everything out so early, but they did. All right, folks. So the rule is write everything I write, draw everything I draw, and you will be well on your way to success. So let's go like this, and then I'm going to go like that. Ah.
I don't think your document cam's on.
Oh, duh. Okay. I appreciate that. I just thought you were enjoying the view of watching me draw. There you go. Try that. Thanks. Appreciate that.
Okay.
Hey, have you been to that Italian restaurant, Claro's on Mountain and Baseline, I think, by the Stater Brothers? That's the place, man.
Okay.
I just recently discovered that. I don't know why nobody told me. Probably because they were afraid I'd eat everything there. 23570 R17. There you go.
Is that a restaurant or is it a market?
It's a deli. It's an Italian deli.
I know the place you're talking about.
Yeah, Claro's. It's the stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm waiting to explore that more fully, but they do have fresh made cannolis.
Yeah.
Yeah. Take it from an ex-fat guy. Gotta bulk up on the cannolis. There we go. Okay, so that right there, it's got this little thing sticking out like that. That's pretty close. Pretty close. So I'm gonna go like this. That right there is the tread. This is called the wheel and tire assembly. And the principal is currently in negotiations to see if he can get us the electude back. Change colors. This thing right here is the tire. This thing right here is the wheel. This thing right here is called the Schrader valve. Schrader valve, S-C-H-R-A-E-D-E-R, Schrader. There we go. And that thing right there is called the sidewall markings. There you go. All right, so what's the point of the wheel and tire assembly? Well, the tire is there to give us good traction. The tire is there to provide a buffer between the vehicle and the uneven surface. The tire is made of rubber, very heavy on plastic these days. Increase the durability, strength, all that stuff. And the tire has steel belts inside it. And the purpose of the steel belts is to keep the tire from blowing up when we go over bumps or curbs or potholes or whatever. It performs the same function that we use rebar in concrete for. It just strengthens the thing up. Often, if you let the tire wear excessively, you'll actually be able to see the steel belts underneath. That's a sign that you should have replaced that long ago. But anyways, if it gets to that point, you can tell you're negligent. So the tire is rubber, plastic, with a bunch of steel belts in it. It's filled with air. The purpose of the Schrader valve right here is to enable us to put air in the tire. There we go.
Can you repeat that? I couldn't hear you.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
The purpose of the Schrader valve is to allow us to put air in the tire and take air out if there's too much.
Okay.
Now, how do you know how much air you're supposed to put in a tire? Well,
The
that's
inside placard.
yeah, it's going to be on the tire placard on the B pillar. Let's see. Can I make it here? A little car like that. Got a door like that. The tire placard is going to be on the B pillar. Usually you're going to have a vehicle identification number there as well. A pillar, B pillar. Pillar is a vertical structural member. So then you're going to have a tire placard, which is going to tell you what size tires you should have and how much inflation they're supposed to have. Now, why that's a big deal is because the tire pressure monitors system on the car is going to be calibrated to those numbers. So people have all kinds of funky ideas about how much air they should put in the tire, but you got to be very wary because you don't want people's tire pressure monitoring system to go off. Why would it go off? Well, because when do you check tire pressure? You check tire pressure when the tires are cold, which means if you drive around the block, they're not cold anymore because all this tread is going to be interacting with the asphalt, creating friction, and friction creates heat. So you're supposed to use cold tire pressure. Problem is, usually when we test the tire pressure, we've already driven a mile or two or whatever. That's not cold tire pressure. And what happens is, as the air heats up, the pressure is going to increase. That's Bernoulli's gas law. So what happens is, if you don't set the tire pressure correctly, either The tire pressure is going to be too low when it's cold, and that's going to set off the alarm. Or it's going to be too high when it gets hot, and that's going to set off the alarm. So we need to watch that tire placard and make sure that we fill up the tires in accordance to that. Now, were I you, I would go down to, well, shoot, if I was you, I'd probably go to Amazon and get a decent tire pressure gauge and throw one in every car I own. Doesn't have to be a $20 one, might be a $5 one. I wouldn't get a $1 one. But if it was me, that's what I would do. And I would get the kind that looks like this. Get one that costs $3 or $4. It'll last the life of the car and maybe the life of a couple of cars. Or you can get them at an auto parts store or whatever. But just throw it in the glove box. You'd be way better off. So wheel and tire assembly. That's the wheel and the tire together. Tire's made of rubber. It's got steel belts in it. It's got the tread on it. The purpose of the tread is to allow water to escape so that we don't lose contact between the rubber and the road, because that's really terrifying. So the grooves in the tread are going to allow water to escape so that we maintain contact between the rubber and the road, because that's going to give us the traction. The tire has sidewall markings, these things. And the sidewall markings have meanings, and I think the book describes those pretty well. The 235 is the width of the tire in millimeters. The 70 is the percentage of this dimension that this dimension is. It's the sidewall height as a percentage of the tire width. R means it's a radial, and pretty much every tire you buy right these days is going to be a radial. And 17 refers to the diameter of the wheel that the tire.
Which one's the aspect ratio? I can't remember.
The 70.
Second one, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, so the wheel. The wheel is going to be made of metal. It's going to be made of either aluminum or steel. If you want to get fancy wheels, they're usually going to be aluminum, but the aluminum stuff has to be a lot thicker because steel is a lot stronger. A lot stronger. That's why the steel wheels are going to be thin in general. The steel wheels are going to be thin and the aluminum wheels are going to be thick. Now, what does that matter? Well, it matters in terms of the lug nuts you use, and it also matters in terms of balancing the wheel and tire assembly, which, you know, we've got videos on how to do that on my channel, Wrench Talk. And we got a new balancer that we haven't even set up yet, thank God, because when you move it, you got to recalibrate it again. Who knew? Anyways, so it should be exciting. Hopefully epoxy floors worth every penny, because it's a lot of pennies. Now, right here is where the wheel attaches to the hub, and the wheel hub is simply the part of the car that spins on what basically amounts to be the axle. That means it's got bearings inside it, and the bearings are there to allow something to spin on a shaft, or the shaft to spin in something. We need to have bearings because we're talking about a great deal of weight, you know, thousands of pounds. Because especially when this thing goes around a corner or something like that, you're going to have a big shift in the center of gravity, and it's going to put a lot of weight on these lug nuts, for instance, or lift the weight off depending on which way you're turning. So it's got to be a high strength part. So that's why we use bearings. It's just like a skateboard. It's got, you know, 2 sets of bearings. Instead of 1 nut here, we're going to use 4 or 5 or 6 or 8 or 10, depending on the vehicle. So wheel and tire assembly. Yeah. One last thing. this edge where the wheel meets the tire is called the rim. Of course, in Montclair, if you ask someone for a wheel, they're not going to say rueda, they're going to say a rim. But the rim is actually the part where the wheel and tire make contact. Now, when we do wheel and tire service, and you know, we tend to do it a lot, changing tires and stuff like that, this surface between the wheel and the tire has to be clean. It has to be clean and it has to be in good shape, because that's actually going to create a seal that's going to keep the tire from leaking, or at least it's better. Yeah. So we got to make sure that's clean, free of debris and foreign obstacles. So let's see where that goes. Yeah. All right. Questions, comments, thoughts on that so far? And move on. Okay. You got that?
Isn't there also on the side wall, doesn't it also tell you how much pounds of air you're putting?
Well, no. Okay. What it's going to tell you on the sidewalls is it's going to tell you the maximum allowable pressure for a certain load.
Okay.
You don't ever put the maximum in. You wouldn't like the ride. You don't ever put the maximum in. Back in the olden days, before the tire placards, we used to act a little differently. But now that we have tire placards, we got to follow those things, because if you don't, you're going to get the tire pressure monitoring system alarm, and you don't want that. So no, it tells you the maximum pressure. And you know, I used to have the standing rule that, you know, you would put in a little bit less air than the maximum pressure. So if it asked for 40, you'd put in 37 or something like that. Or if it said 35, you'd put in 32 or something like that. But anymore, with a tire pressure monitoring system, we can't do that anymore. So we just run off the placard. That tells you the maximum load. In fact, that's why policemen used to pull over the lowriders. You know how they used to have the really small tires? They used to pull over the lowriders and give them tickets, and they would, you know, scream bloody murder. But the simple fact of the matter is, if you added up the maximum load on each of the 4 tires, and then you weighed the vehicle with all your homies in it, you would find that you were grossly overloading the tires. And that was, you know, that's really dangerous, especially if you're going down the freeway, because the tire will just shred with that much load on it. So that's maximum load. Also on the sidewall markings, you're going to see ratings for traction, tread wear, and temperature, which is to say how sticky it is, how durable it is, and how fast you can go with it. I think those are in the book though, so you can look at them at your leisure later. I just want to talk about processes tonight, because I'm thinking what I want to do in the lectures, because we got so little time. I think what I want to do in lectures is I want to spend more time focused on processes as opposed to mechanisms. You tell me if it works. I mean, you know, we're gonna be feeling our way through this till the day after the election, according to the head of public health for LA County. Anyway, so my point was, you see this? It's got a big hole in the middle. The wheel is going to be made of steel or aluminum. We'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, so let's see what we got here. What we got here is I'm gonna go like that. Not the best, but not the worst. Go like that. I guess I can put a little black hole in there. Huh, it's not terrible. Not
Your
great.
tire was awesome though.
Quack. Well, we'll see if I can
Mine didn't
redeem
even look that
myself
good.
with the rest of this. Come up like that. Come up like this. Is that right? Just kind of goes like that. Something like that. Anyway, that's a spindle. That's a shaft. That's got threads right there with a cotter key. And we got a big old nut right here. There you go. That's not terrible. It's not great, but it's not terrible. That's what you have on the front of the car. You've probably got it on the back of the car too. So it's just like a skateboard wheel. It's got, you know, except you got an axle here on a skateboard. You've got bearings on the inside of this that allow it to spin. This is the wheel hub. Yeah, it would help to label the parts. Those are the wheel studs. And then while I'm there, trying to figure out how to draw this. Call that a lug nut or a wheel nut. Well, can't get both of those in the same drawing. Got a ball joint up here, ball joint up here, depending on the construction. That's a lug nut or wheel nut. It's got a bevel on the end. Well, well, well. Well, well, well-itty well. What's going on here? Oh, I heard someone complaining about your truck today.
Hi, y'all.
About how hot your lug nuts were. How are you, Rube? You get burned out? Hey, next time you have a gender reveal party. So did you get evacuated?
That's a negative. The fire was about 2 miles from the house, 2 to 3 miles.
Wow.
Man.
Scary.
Well, yeah, you can always smoke a cigar. That'll clear your lungs out. Anyway, glad you're okay.
That's the best way to be.
Freaking Rudy. All right, let me draw a side view.
The one that scared me more was the apple fire because we had the 747 flying right over the house,
Right.
and he was flying low.
Yeah, it's cool though. It's cool to watch.
Oh hell yeah, it's awesome to watch him fly, but that's the one that freaks you out in a mobile because it kind of shakes the unit every time he flies overhead.
How do you say bevel in Spanish? Bezil? This. They say that in Spanish. Bezil? I think.
I believe so.
Yeah. That's wheel nuts, lug nuts. That's a side
Hey,
view.
Rockliffe,
What?
I got a question. What would make a car just shut off on the freeway?
Electrical.
No, because my dash lights never shut off, nor did my radio or anything else.
So that's not the only electrical.
So here's what happened. We were on our way back from New Mexico,
What vehicle?
and Ford Flex.
Really? Okay.
And we filled up at the border of Arizona and New Mexico on the way back. And we ran all the way through Phoenix, no issues, all the way to well past Phoenix, and we were 70, probably 80 miles from the California border. And all of a sudden the car just shut off.
What?
None of my dash lights went off, none of my stereo, none of my lights, nothing. The car just like died and was trying to restart with the fact that we were driving at 85 when it died.
So it was stumbling. It didn't just shut off.
Yeah. It was stumbling, and when I pulled over, I put the car into neutral before I came to a full stop, and the engine just off. And then we sat there probably hour and a half.
Did you try to start it?
Yes, tried starting it 4 different times. And all it would do is whoa, 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 whoa.
It's the computer.
And then we sat there for hour and 20 minutes, and then the car started back up and drove fine the rest of the way to Courtside.
All right, Chuck, what do you think?
Well, I think it's a vapor lock. What was the temperature when you were driving?
111.
It had a vapor lock, I think. Check engine light stay on?
That's what I think happened too.
Is the engine light on? Check engine light on?
Nope.
No fault codes.
Nope. No fault codes at all.
I think it's a vapor lock.
How are you
That's
gonna
what I
get-
think happened.
How are you going to get vapor lock with a pump in the tank?
Have a quarter tank at that temperature. And remember, the Ford Flex has that Corvette style tank. So it has that crossover tube. I think the crossover tube vapor locked.
What is vapor lock?
It's where the gasoline boils and creates a gas, and the gas gets plugged in the line.
No,
Okay,
what
thank you.
happens is the fuel pump is only capable of pumping liquids. So the problem is when the temperature gets high enough, or if the pressure gets low enough, the gasoline boils, creating a vapor, and the pump can't handle it. So as a result, it just dies because you run out of fuel. What would have been useful in this question would be if you could have got a can of carburetor cleaner and sprayed it in the
Mhm.
air filter housing and seeing if it would have started? Because that would have isolated
But I
the problem too.
in the middle of absolutely nothing.
Right. Yeah.
The car died and between mile markers 79 and 78.
I did have.
And I pushed the car 0.2 of a mile, and then the car started.
Have you checked your air filter? I've had stranger things
Yep.
happen.
Still clean.
Okay.
Okay, but tell me again about how vapor lock. Tell me again how vapor lock happens on the pressure side of a pump. I have not heard that before.
It's actually on the suction side of the pump.
But that's supposed to be submerged, right?
Yeah, but at a quarter tank in that heat, and you're talking about a quarter tank between both sides, I think the one side went dry and it didn't have enough pressure to pull it from the other side. Because remember, your Corvette tanks are 2 tanks that are connected by a little mini tank.
Yeah.
Same thing with the Ford Flex.
For some reason.
Because
Wow.
it's set up for the all-wheel drive system versus a non-all-wheel drive.
I was going to say you shouldn't buy your stuff at Pemex, but are you sure you weren't coming across the border?
Nope.
One time that happened to me when one of the bags of cocaine broke open and it got inside the fuel pump.
You know I don't dare touch that stuff.
Kidding. So vapor lock, in fact, vapor lock used to be such a problem that they immortalized it in a Simpsons episode, Joe Namath, in fact. But vapor lock used to happen on cars that had carburetors because they had mechanical fuel pumps on the engine and they had to suck the fuel from all the way back in the back of the vehicle all the way up to the fuel pump, which was above the fuel tank. So the problem was it was creating a negative pressure. You know, the suction side was like 15 feet long. And as the pressure drops, the boiling point of the liquid drops too. Same reason why if you go up on the mountain, if you go up to like 14,000 feet and you try to boil water, it boils at like 120 degrees. So we used to have this thing called vapor lock, which meant that instead of the fuel lines being filled with liquid, now they were filled with vapor. And the fuel pump just can't handle vapor. It can't pump it. It's not made for that. But I thought that for the most part, our vapor lock problems were gone because now we had fuel pumps in the tank. So running across the car was actually on the pressure side, which would increase the boiling point. But
yeah, but I think this happened in the tank, not
sure.
out of the tank. And the fuel, my mileage to empty had dropped to 0.
Okay, that makes sense.
Just prior to that happening.
Well, first of all, aren't you supposed to fill up on gasoline before you come to California?
Yes, I do. I stop in Courtside.
Hmm.
Just before the thing said 0, I had 111 miles to empty.
Did you drive by my property?
And I'm getting an average of 20 miles per gallon.
At the speed you drive, that's doing pretty good. Did you drive by my properties in Seligman?
Probably.
Were you on the 40 or on the 10?
No, on the 10.
No, okay. Okay, well, someone should.
Shut out straight all the way through.
Who wants to be an Arizona landowner? I have some plots for you. Yeah, I got a plot for you. That was a joke. Anyways, lug nuts. Lug nuts are going to have a bevel on them. Most of them are going to have this bevel on them. And that bevel is important because it's going to center the wheel onto the hub. So this side goes towards the wheel. There you go, like that. And we're going to talk about that. So the wheel hub is where the wheel connects to the car. The spindle is the part that turns on the front, or it's just this axle type thing that sticks out that the bearings rotate on that shaft. What are the bearings for? The bearings allow either a shaft to spin on something else or something else to spin on a shaft. And they're, of course, lubricated with grease because we need them to be lubricated so that they don't die from friction. Man, got a lot to teach, got a lot to learn. All right, friction. Friction is resistance of two things moving across each other. For instance, if you were to go like this, you can feel your hand warm up, especially if you're wearing denim. You can feel your hand warm up. That's friction. And friction is a big deal for us because, like I said, friction is going to change the temperature of your tires. Now, one thing I need to mention that the book doesn't mention is that you need to be checking your tire pressure 2
I'm
times.
getting about 10% of what you guys are saying, so if it seems like I'm not seeing, I'm trying to.
Yeah, you're cutting in and out. So you need to check your tire pressure at least twice a year, because the problem is that the temperature is going to affect your tire pressure. For instance, I'll bet you if you checked your tire pressure at noon 4 days ago versus noon today, you would probably notice a 2 to 3 psi difference. PSI, which is pounds per square inch. Libras por pulgada cuadrada. Thought I didn't know, but I did. Yep, pounds per square inch. That's how we measure pressure. Unless we're in metric. So whether we're measuring fuel pump pressure or whether we're measuring air pressure in our tires, we're going to use pounds per square inch as our unit. Libras por pulgada cuadrada. All right, so we're talking about PSI and tires. We need to check our tire pressure at least 2 times a year, because what happens is if you set your tire pressure in the middle of summer, it's going to be too low come Christmas. And if you set your tire pressure on Christmas Day, it's going to be too low come August 1st. Now, here's the thing. You went down to the tire store and you got these bitchin', $400 piece tires, and they have an 80,000 mile warranty. But I need to tell you that that warranty does not cover over and under inflation. As a result, what tends to happen is if people don't have problems with their tires, they don't check them. And as a result, they're either too high pressure or too low pressure. And what happens is they wear out the tire prematurely, and they go back there with their warranty in hand and they say, here, replace my tire. And they say, no, 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 we don't replace tires for inflation, misinflation issues. All right, so let's see if we can figure out where we're supposed to be. This tire, I guess this is a front view or a rear view. This tire is correctly inflated. As you can see, the tread is even all the way across. Now, sometimes it'll get a little bit worn on the edges because you take left turns too quick or right turns too quick. But in general, your tread will tend to be even all the way across. That's a sign that you've got good inflation. It's correct. Now, with modern cars with tire pressure monitoring systems, it tends to remind us a lot more if we're outside where we're supposed to be. Well, this one, however,
That one's underinflated.
you can see that the tread is really strong in the center, but there's hardly any tread on the outside. That is the classic sign of underinflation. Not enough air. Now, I'm so old, I remember when we didn't have to worry about the fate of the country every day. Well,
That one's overinflated.
yeah. This one is overinflated. And if they see either of these, they ain't going to give you no new tire. They'll be happy to sell you a new one. Now, folks, I just need to warn you that if you have an all-wheel drive vehicle, another reason not to get one, besides the fact that they're way more complicated and thus more likely to break down. If you have an all-wheel drive car, if you replace one tire, you're supposed to replace all four. And if you replace one tire on an all-wheel drive car because it picked up a bolt or whatever, if you replace one tire on an all-wheel drive car, you'll burn up a differential. Then you'll be very, very, very sad you bought an all-wheel drive car. So I don't suggest them. Now, if you live up in the mountains or if you live back east where it snows all the time, that's a different thing. But in general, I do not suggest getting all-wheel drive cars. The drive line's way more complicated, and as a result, you tend to have more problems with it. I like my stuff simple. Okay, that's a quick. Okay, you tell me, why is the IS300 so expensive? I'm looking at like a 2002, 2003 with 170,000 miles, and it's still $5,000. Why? Because it looks like a Mercedes? Rudy? Chuck?
That's what I believe, and they're extremely popular.
Must be. Because, you know, I started looking up SL500s, and you can get an SL500 with less miles in better shape for the same price. Why would you get an IS300 if you could get an SL500? SL500s are bitching. You know, say what you want about it.
Because the Lexus is easier to fix than the Mercedes.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. But SL500 is bitching, though. Say what you want about Robert Torrance, but that is a cool car for a wannabe Corvette.
For sure, except for the fact that when it breaks down, it costs you a freaking fortune.
Yeah. Well, it's like a
compared
Corvette.
to the Lexus, where you just buy Toyota parts and they work perfectly fine.
Yeah. But I mean, okay, here's the thing. Would you buy a Toyota or a Lexus at 170,000 miles?
Yeah.
Yeah. But
I don't see why not, because those motors run 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 if they're taken care of.
yeah, but what about the automatic transmission?
Yeah, but that's easy to replace.
Compared to what?
They're not stupidly expensive to replace.
True. You know, one of my students was saying that a friend of his or a family member of his took their car in because they needed a transmission, and they quoted him like $5,000 for a trans job.
What?
I'm like, man, you should have taken my class, buddy. Yeah, yeah, seriously. I mean, that's what the car was worth. It's like, see, this is why you take my class. So you get a realistic perspective of what the stuff's worth. All right, so correct means it's got tread evenly all the way across. Underinflation is going to be losing tread on the outside edges because it's going to be riding on those. Overinflated means it's going to be riding in the middle because it's going to blow up like a balloon. So those are inflation issues. Hopefully with modern cars with tire pressure monitoring systems, we don't have big issues with that. But I got to tell you, if you have that issue, they're not going to replace the tire under warranty because they don't warranty inflation issues. Now, here's something else. Like that. Strong tread over here. So, Rudy, where's the Sears open? Online?
Yeah, online.
Now this is, oh, sorry, this is different. As you can see, it's got strong tread on one side, but not on the other. That's not inflation. This is an alignment issue. Unless people are really driving fast on this, this is going to be an alignment issue. Now, what does alignment mean? Well, alignment means that the wheel and tire assembly is in appropriate geometric relation to the rest of the car. Now, does that mean an $80 alignment will fix it? Maybe. Maybe not, though.
Maybe, maybe not.
Right. So how are you going to know whether this is a $70 fix or a $1,700 fix?
Pay the $70 and put it on the machine.
Well, yeah, I mean, sure, but I'm talking about, let's say you were buying a used car. I would presume the worst. Yeah,
I would presume it's new control arms or stuff like that.
Well, what I would do is I would start looking around and see if this car looks like it's been in a wreck. You know, has the bumper been replaced? Do the body panels line up correctly? Does it look like it was repainted?
Color match.
Yeah, color match for sure. Yeah.
Or like one of my YouTubers says, if you got orange peel on one part of the car and the rest of the car looks like glass, it's been repainted.
Right, right. So these are the things we want to talk about in this class. We want to talk about making you a more successful consumer because, you know, if you're old enough to know, you're old enough to know that the right car can make you and the wrong car can break you. We want to make sure that doesn't happen. In general, if the car's got over 200,000 miles on it, I'm extraordinarily suspicious because, you know, automatic transmissions don't tend to last longer than, well, geez, 170, 200, 230. I don't know. I'm nervous about that. Like the Corvette, the silver Corvette, the trans was 205,000 miles and it ran great. Incidentally, I think that's probably for sale cheap because he replaced the radiator, but he didn't replace the trans fluid that was in the radiator. So now it shifts weird. I think he thinks there's got a real problem. So you might be able to pick that up cheap. I just keep buying and selling the same car, making money on it every time. He's already replaced the tires. Anyways, did you know that baggage handlers at Ontario Airport make over 100 grand a year?
Really?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Well, yeah, just because there's people in this class that are looking for work, let me show you, just give you the link right there. Yeah, 100 grand a year is very cool actually. Where did you see Scotty Scotty, what's his name? Right there. Okay, Apple One.
Scotty Kilmer.
Yeah. Scotty Kilmer. Did you see he had the video about why poor people buy used BMWs and why rich people drive Toyotas? Anyways, this is a temp agency, right? So you go to Apple One, cargo handler, that's the ad number 44267, $15 an hour, but you work there for 2 or 3 months. Then you get picked up at the airport and they got tons of overtime. You got to pass a background check, but then you have a life, right? 100 grand a year, you have a life. You have a good life. You can move out of Montclair with 100 grand a year. And there's, I mean, 80% of the people that go to a 4-year university are never going to make 100 grand a year. Now, are you going to be able to make 100 grand a year for 40 years? I'm not sure. Maybe, you know, you get in a supervisorial position or something like that. Got to pass a drug test. So that cuts out 50% of the people in the San Gabriel Valley. Anyways, I did want to alert you to this, you know, next-jobs24.com. Yeah, Apple One.
How long does it take for drugs to get out of your system approximately?
Depends on the drugs. If it's powders, it's like 3 days.
Marijuana.
If it's
6
pot,
months.
yeah, it could, yeah. Especially because it's stored in the fat cells. So if you got a lot of fat, I mean,
Oh, damn.
I probably still got some left from the 60s.
It's even worse if you consume edibles.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
Shit, I got 6 years.
Even longer. That's better than not to smoke at all.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, it's like take drugs or have a life, you know.
Well, I was only taking it for pain control.
I told the cop that, and he just wouldn't listen. I told the judge that, but he just wouldn't listen. I said, "Here, judge, try it." Yep. Kidding.
I mean, I was actually using it for legit reasons.
I know. All right, so that's an alignment issue. So one of the things we're going to do, if we're going to buy a used car, we're going to be looking around at the tires, right? We're going to be looking around at the tires and making sure something isn't amiss, because people are insanely dishonest when it comes
And
to
also check for brand new tires too.
Yeah.
If there's all of a sudden brand new tires on the front end of a car, expect an alignment issue.
Right. Or you know, when they lower the vehicle on the riced out, cambered out ricers. Yeah. Because what happens is these kids, they lower the cars, but they do it wrong. So now the tires sit like this.
What's the deal with that?
So,
They don't have anything better to do.
yeah.
That just seems like it's really bad for a vehicle.
Yeah, it is. I mean, well, it's like conspicuous consumption, right? Because you'd have to be rich to be able to afford to do that, you know, to go through those tires, because you'll go through tires like every 3 months, and they're using expensive tires. So it's just a look. But what it basically does is it shows everybody that you have so much money you can waste it. It's like, I mean, you tell me what's up with a $160 T-shirt or a $700 belt. I mean, what the hell? I don't know.
I just want to show off, and this is what I was told is showing off. So
Yeah.
I can't afford these tires, but yet I can't afford not to have my car slammed like that. So
But wouldn't you think if they're snapping like that, the wear of the tires is gonna go?
Oh, it's
dude,
crazy.
it chews the inside of the tire up in 3 months that they need a brand new tire.
That is so retarded.
If they even drive that much. If they don't drive that much, they might get 5 or 6 months out of the tire.
Wow.
But you're still talking $300, $400, $500 a tire. And what you find out is a bunch of them only drive that car on the weekend.
Have to.
They don't drive it every single day. And they got some beat up, barely running Honda Civic or Accord that they drive every day to work and stuff, and they only come out in that car on the weekend.
See? Does it match your drawing, folks?
Yeah, it's
Both.
pretty good.
That's how
Good
it is.
drawing.
Yep. Well, that's what we're after. So, you know, it's difficult not being able to do this in person. It's difficult because I can't really show you, you know, the real article. So I have to show you pictures, but that's what it looks like. And that's the same thing mounted on the vehicle. Somewhere around here. Well, see, there's a spindle right there. And there's 2 ball bearings. It's an unusual way to do it, but well, like that. Front wheel drive. You got the drive axle right here. And that's going to go through this. And that's basically the same drawing you just did. This connects to the McPherson strut. And on the bottom here, it's going to connect the lower control arm, I'm imagining.
With the ball joint.
Yeah, see? That's what I'm looking for right there. That's basically the same drawing we just did. We'll get there. And as you can see, you've got the spindle here. You've got upper ball joint up here, lower ball joint up here, depending on the configuration. You've got oil seal right here, so all the grease doesn't come out. Grease seal, actually. And then it's got an inner bearing, outer bearing. It's got a nut, grease cap. That's an important grease cap. Because what happens to grease when it gets hot?
Melts.
Turns into a liquid, right? Yeah, so this is basically what you just drew. This thing right here is the disc brake rotor. So I'm happy with that little drawing there. Wouldn't you like to be able to draw that well? There we go. Get out the big sledgehammer. That's what you need. Scotty Kilmer. Yep. He is a weirdo, but I'll tell you, he's a good wrench. Now, we talked last time, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but we talked last time about where to get the specifications for tightening lug nuts. I would go, let's see how I got here. Discount tire lug nut. And then come down here to where it says find info about lug nut torque and wheel torque specs. And click that. I would favorite this in your phone because you're going to need it later. It's going to tell you out here, discount tire is called America's Tire. And then you have a wheel torque chart for pretty much every vehicle. For instance, if I had a, what do I have, Rudy? A Ford Mustang? 2014 Ford Mustang? Okay, so I got a Ford Mustang. Come on. Got a Ford Mustang over here. I scroll down. And I've got a 2014, so it's this one right here, and it says 100 foot-pounds. Torque is measured in foot-pounds. Incidentally, I got a video I'd like you to watch. It's called How to Use a Torque Wrench for Beginners 2020. Now, I want to warn you, there's a bunch of videos on how to use a torque wrench that suck. So don't watch those. Watch this. It's 10 minutes and 1 second long by Rev Match TV. And it's a good video. It'll help you set up a torque wrench. And what I'm trying to do now is I'm trying to figure out strategic use of videos so that I don't have to explain stuff that you can learn on YouTube. If we're doing distance learning, maybe better, because I mean, if I was going to make a video, I would pretty much do it the exact same way he did. But there's a bunch of stuff he didn't explain that I'm going to explain tonight. So let's move on that. Torque wrench, like we talked about before, a torque wrench is a precision measuring instrument, and it's used to measure torque. Torque is twisting force. Tuerca, right? Torque is twisting force. And the reason we need to do that is so that we can equally tighten every lug nut, like for instance right about there, so that we can equally tighten every lug nut. And that's important because, as you can see, he's got a 2020 Jeep. That's got to be at least $15,000, right? No. So you can tighten every lug nut, because especially with these expensive wheels and especially with disc brakes, you want to make sure that each one of these nuts is tightened exactly the same. because that's going to put equal load on each lug nut, and that's going to keep the rotor from warping, which is a big deal. Most common cause of disc brake warping is technician error. And I know that when you go down to the Ontario, they're just going to bang it on with an impact gun, but that's incorrect. Don't be like that. All right, so let's talk.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
What do you think about hub centric and lug centric on the rims?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, you know, as far as torque values or strength. You know, when you get aftermarket rims, you pretty much lug centric. Stock OEM usually hub centric.
Right.
That's all I'm bringing up.
Well, I mean, that's a problem, because if you're using aftermarket stuff, then who knows, right? That's why if I'm going to get aftermarket rims or something like that, I get them from a very reliable source, because, you know, if they make your wheel fall off, I'm sure that they're going to say, oh, well, it was my fault. You know, everybody's going to be running for the exit at that point. So I would be very, very cautious who I get aftermarket stuff from. And
Always try to use hub-centric wheels.
Go ahead, Rudy. Why?
Always try to use hub-centric wheels because they align the rim to the hub a whole lot better than lug-centric. If you can get the wheel to center on the hub of the car better than using the lug nut, it will balance the rim on the car better and keep it more secure.
I guess the carrying load would be better also, because the hub is taking part of the weight rather than the lug nuts or the stress.
Exactly.
Are you going to put that on with anti-seize so it doesn't get stuck?
Of course.
Okay. All right. All right. All right. Well, I mean, technically the lug nuts are supposed to center the wheel on the stud anyway. But, well, I tell you what, if you're going to go through a lot of water, I would make sure I kept my eye on that, because you don't want the wheel to get stuck. We've had a couple of wheels that we had to get off the hub with a sledgehammer. That's the problem with the hub-centric stuff.
Mm.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about wheel nuts. And we're going to talk about wheel nuts because we've got this wheel. And we want to take it off. So say we want to do a brake inspection or something like that. Ah, I am so right-handed. So let's say we want to do a brake inspection. So we got to figure out how to get this thing off, and we got to figure out how to get this back on. And he's not going to tell you a bunch of stuff, and I want to make sure that you're clear on it. All right. Number one. When removing, Incidentally, on this video, he's going to tell you to get torque specs off Google. I do not agree. Go to Discount Tires, wheel lug nut specs, get it from a reliable source as opposed to some jackass on Google, because Google's got certain reliability issues. Let's put it that way.
And about that torque run Sears, the Sears in Rancho is still open and will be for a while, they said.
Huh.
And the sale for that trunk that you were showing us today, I think ends like September 20th or something. But that Sears is open.
Wow. You know what I found at Sears is they have an impact gun, an air ratchet, and an air chisel for 75 bucks with an air hose. I'll get you in the game if you have a compressor.
Most important piece.
Yeah, huh? All right, let's get over here. All right, so rules for wheel service. Yellow. When removing wheels, I'm going to call them lug nuts. Lug nuts can be removed in any order. Now, here's the thing. If you're using a lift, which is what we do, you can use an impact and you can get all the wheels, you can get all the lug nuts off with the tires off the ground. If, on the other hand, you're trying to get the lug nuts loose and you don't have an impact, you need to keep the tires on the ground so that the tire doesn't just spin when you... Now, in this video, he suggests using a breaker bar, which is good advice. Don't get a short one like this, though. Go down to Harbor Freight, get the $20 36-inch one. In fact, that's what he got. He has the Harbor Freight one. I've had good luck with them. I haven't broken any yet, and I've put hundreds of pounds of force on it. So just go down and get it. Do yourself a favor. Happy birthday to you, or happy Patriots Day, whatever. And if you're using something like this, the tire is going to have to be in contact with the ground. Do not remove the lug nuts with the vehicle's weight still supported by the tire, because bad things will happen, really bad things will happen. So when you're moving wheels, the lug nuts can be removed in any order.
Just loosen them. Do not remove them on the ground.
When the tire's on the ground, yeah, sure. But do us all a favor, and if you're going to loosen the lug nuts, make sure that the full weight of the car is not on the lug nuts, because that makes it hard on the wheel studs. That's number one. Number two, inspect wheel studs for rust
Or damage.
other issues. Yeah, could be damage. Now, I noticed on the F-250 truck, the reason they have hubcaps is not because it looks pretty. It's because the studs are sticking out so far that if you don't have hubcaps on it, they're just going to get insanely rusty. And what's going to happen is when you're bringing it back out with the impact gun, it's going to get about halfway and it's going to get stuck. That's no good. That's no good. So we want to check the studs, the threads. The roscas. We're going to check and make sure those threads are clean. And if they're rusty, we want to clean them off, and we want to probably put some kind of lubrication on there. I would suggest a penetrating oil, but I guess anything's better than running it dry, because when you come back with that impact gun, that nut's going to get hot due to friction. Things moving across each other, right? Now, how are you going to clean those threads? Well, if you just have a wire brush is good. What I like, though, is this wire wheel that you can stick in the drill motor. Yeah, battery operated. That's about as fast as you can draw one of those, I think. Ah. That's what I like. The wire wheel. Now, on these things, you know, you can get 5 wire wheels down at Harbor Freight for about $7. Or you can get 6 wire brushes down at Harbor Freight for like $4. Just bite the bullet. If you do that, you'll have wire brushes for the next 10 years, or maybe 20, depending on how much work you do. But whatever the case is, you won't be tempted to, you know what, I'm just going to take the chance and see if it'll come off, because that's how tragedies begin. Right?
I use one of these.
Can you bring it closer to the camera? Okay. There you go. Oh, yes, that is correct. In fact, I went to a big old brake seminar on that, and they said that is absolutely critical, because if you don't do that, I mean, the rotors get all jacked up and the rotors won't run true. If you get rust between the hub and the disc brake rotor, it won't run true. Yeah, so they said that was a big deal, absolute requirement. See? El Rey de las Arenas, yeah? So, clean up the threads with that. He's talking about cleaning up the stud surface, the surface that the wheel goes on and the rotor goes on.
Well, the inside part, you can actually run it through the stud and you'll clean them also.
Yeah, kind of like a battery terminal cleaner.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Let me see it again.
It's got like an abrasive
okay.
pad on the front. Yeah.
It has an abrasive tip that screws on. And then it has the half-inch drive in the back to run it on the gun.
Awesome.
Yeah. Good for you, Chuck. That's the right way.
That's
All right.
awesome, Chuck.
3. Yeah, from now on, Chuck, you can do all my brake jobs.
Hey, there's money to be made. It's hard work, but you can make a few bucks.
Yep. Use a parts bucket. Folks, we're not going to put stuff in our pockets, and we're not going to leave stuff on the floor, and we're not going to put stuff on the lift and 17 million other things, right? Use a parts bucket. We got tons of them, and that's what they're there for. So you can put all the little, what's that, what? Parts bucket. See? And then you can put all your little lug nuts in there, and then it'll be happy, because I got to tell you, you lose one of those lug nuts, it can take like 2 or 3 hours to find the missing lug nut. And everyone behind you is going to be saying, what the hell? The codicil, part 2 of this is never put tools or parts on the floor. Very bad. Big safety issue. Plus, you know, if you kick one of those lug nuts, you know, it might take, you may never find it again until they epoxy the floor. That was a joke. But more typically what happens is people leave tools and parts on the floor, and someone will be working on the car or doing an inspection or something, and they'll step backwards and they'll step on this thing, twist their ankle, and you know, who knows where their head's going to end up. Very, very dangerous. So we got to make sure that our floor is always kept absolutely dry and clear. Yeah. Okay. 4. Inspect studs before
In the car door.
reassembly. Now, why do we inspect studs before reassembly? Because we got to be nervous about this stuff. And especially when we're using impacts, because the impacts are going to create so much heat. Plus, the impacts we use are capable of 700 foot-pounds, which means if you run into an obstacle, it has enough power to go through that obstacle. And a lot of times you're not going to want it to, because it's going to cut threads and steel. So here's what I use. First of all, I'm going to clean them with that wire wheel. It's very, very fast. If you use the drill motor mounted wire wheel, it's very, very fast to clean the threads. Here's what I'm going to use. This big silver bottle. It looks just like this. And it says anti-seize. Now, anti-seize is like liquefied aluminum. What it does is acts like a lubricant. People say, well, this, they say like this wheel stud is completely dry and clean, so it's perfect, ready to reassemble. You got to watch out for that, because it's like a rifle. If it's completely clean, that means there's no lubrication on it. That means you're going to have problems. So, just in case you're thinking of protesting, Anti-seize. This is made by Permatex. It's a big silver bottle about this big. It's going to cost you like $7, and you'll be handing half of it down to your grandkids
There's a lot of
because it just goes forever. It just goes forever. And the thing is, you're not going to use that much of it, but when you need to use it, you need to use it. And the thing is, if you don't have it on hand, you're going to say, you know what, I'll just use grease instead. Or I just leave it dry, or blah, 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 right? We don't want to tempt ourselves to do the wrong thing. So it's about $7. You can get it at any legitimate parts store. Incidentally, oh, I'm recording, so I can't tell you. Remind me to tell you before I start. No, yeah, remind me to tell you before I start the recording after break, yeah?
There's two types of
Anti-seize.
anti-seize.
What's it, what?
There's two types of anti-seize.
Go ahead.
The silver and the copper.
Yeah. Do you use the copper?
That's for higher heat range, like at the exhaust manifold bolts.
They don't usually keep that in stock, but I guess you could Amazon it. You don't usually see that on stock on an auto parts store, or do you?
O'Reilly's carries it. I see it.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. Well, why not? All right. So here's the thing about anti-seize, though. It is a lubricant. Now, how much lubricant do you want to use on something that you want to keep tight? Little. So
Very little.
yeah, exactly. Probably as little as possible, if that. So there's the wheel stud again. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little dibbity dab right there, because this stuff will spread. You make sure you don't get this on your hands or your clothes. And if you get it on your hands, you be sure to wipe it off, because if you don't, it'll be everywhere. Like 2 drops of this could cover the whole surface of the earth. So just a little dibbity dab right here. That's all. And as the nut goes down, it's going to spread it across the stud. And that'll make you happy. Plus, you know, seize means that 2 parts weld themselves together. That happens because of friction. In fact, there's a type of welding called friction welding that relies on that relationship. You need to make sure that's not what happens on your wheel stud. For sure. And if you have broken wheel studs, we got to make sure we replace them.
That's what causes broken wheel studs.
Yeah, that's what causes broken wheel studs, sure. And trying to take them off when they're dirty, I mean rusty, whatever. Okay, so we're going to inspect the studs before reassembly. Probably not a bad idea to inspect those nuts too, but the studs are usually the issue. Okay. Now remember, did I already talk to you about which way the bevel goes? I don't think so. Well, at least not tonight. No, I didn't. Okay, so.
Yeah, you did. You said towards the wheel.
Okay, good. All right, good. Don't forget that part. That's super important. Super important. All right, so one thing you got to watch out for that he didn't mention that I wanted to mention is a lot of times if someone's replaced the lug nut, you're going to find that they have the same inner dimension, which is to say they both go down the stud, but they're going to have a different outer dimension. So how do we know if our socket is correct? Thank you, sir.
By how much play there is with
Yep.
the socket on the nut.
Yep. Yep. So it's going to come like this. This is going to come like this. That's going to go like that. This is going to be like that. This is correct. That is very incorrect.
Good, bad.
Yeah. So this socket is tight on the nut, and you need to always check to make sure the socket is tight on the nut or the bolt or whatever, the fastener, the hex head fastener. This is loose, and it's going to go slump, slump, clunk, 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 like that. Clunk, 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 clunk. If it's doing that, you got the wrong socket. Now, We talked earlier about,
Nuts.
what's that, what?
It'll also round off your lug nuts.
Yeah, that's what it'll do. Especially when we're talking about the kind of force that we're talking about. First, the torqueability of the impact guns, but also just a regular lug nut's going to be tightened to, you know, on a truck could be 140 foot-pounds. So that kind of force, if you're not using the right socket, you're going to damage something badly. Now, we talked earlier about the different manufacturers, the domestics and the Asian imports and the European imports. So if you're working on an Asian import and a European import, you better be using metric tools. If you're using on a domestic before 73, you better be using standard tools and then mixed after that. Fortunately, you get lucky in terms of wheel and tire service because the most common sizes for lug nuts are 19 and 21 millimeters. Fortunately, that pretty much translates into 3/4 and 13/16. So if you don't have this one, you can probably get away with this one. Just make sure everything's tight, you know. Now, it would take about 15 seconds to show you what a flip socket was, but to draw it takes longer. So I'm trying to figure out how to do the distance learning part when, you know, because it takes longer to draw stuff than to just say, look, this is what it is.
Up an image of it.
Yeah, but I mean, sharing takes a while too. So I was going to say look up flip socket, but that's okay. Locking,
Oh, the flip socket?
yeah. Oh, there's flip socket right there. Yep. There's a flip socket. See, it's 3/4 on one end and it's the exact same one. 13/16 on the other. Folks, these are going to come with a 3-inch, 1/2-inch extension, 1/2-inch drive. Keep this extension with the flip socket because they go together. And if you don't, they're going to get lost and we're going to have to look for them. Right here, Harbor Freight has this set, which is a dandy set. And for 14 bucks, I don't think you can go wrong. It's going to make you very happy. And we've had really good luck with them. However, if you use them hard, they're not going to survive. But for most of your uses and certainly for home use, they're going to be fine. That's flip socket. This thing right here, that's the anti-seize I was telling you about. So I wanted to make sure I showed you all that. Now, here's the thing about that. You see that? Locking lug nuts. Now, there's a bunch of different types of locking lug nuts. You can see this version right here. And then the newer version is kind of like that. See the key? The idea is they're trying to make it so you can't get so you won't get your wheel stolen. Old school version was like that. Well, we talked, I think, last week about when you're using anything with bits, you need to make sure you get 100% contact. So you need to be pushing. So you need to be pushing this way as you turn to make sure you got 100% contact here. Just like if you have a screwdriver, you need to be pushing this way while you turn because you need to keep this bit inside the screw hole, inside the screw head. Doubly important for these things. You must make sure that this thing is held tight in here because as you can see, it doesn't have much contact area to begin with. So you got to make damn sure that this thing is in there tight and straight. And in fact, I would be very nervous about using this with an impact, and I would probably avoid it unless I was extremely confident about my impact game, you know, because there's a lot to lose. Part one. Part two, these are going to be found in either the center console or they're going to be found in the glove box. You make for sure that when you're done with wheel and tire service that you put this back because you don't want
spare tire.
Oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. All right. Well, that's my beautiful wheel hub. Good old Scotty Kilmer. Let's see. So I'll go here, back to here. Okay, so we took the lug nuts off and we didn't care about the order. But when we go back, we're going to start caring about the order because we have to get these things installed correctly. And I know that you guys watch all these guys at Yantaria and nobody cares about the order of the lug nuts and nobody cares enough to use a torque wrench. But that's why Yantarias are Yantarias, and that's why Yantaria guys work at Yantarias. Because
I always make sure they do my lug nuts in a star pattern.
yeah.
I even tell them, tighten them in a star pattern, please.
Well, you're braver than I am because they always give me weird looks when I try to go down that road. So good. All right.
I just tell them it's for my own safety.
It certainly is. Yep. Number one cause of warped disc brake rotors is jackasses with impacts putting wheels on, not using torque wrenches. Number 5. You got the wheel on now. So always put lug nuts on and rotate a few turns by hand.
I do 10.
That's way too many. Always put lug nuts on and rotate a few turns by hand to ensure proper installation. Lots of times people will put the lug nut inside the socket and then put it on the stud and pull the trigger, asking for it. That's like Russian roulette of wheel studs. So we're going to put all the lug nuts on and put them a couple of turns. I'm going to put 3, maybe 4, not freaking 10, not 20. Because after all, we're trying to learn how to do production environment. If your boss saw you doing that, it might lead to a conversation. There you go. So number 6, now we got the wheel on. We've got all the lug nuts on, they're threaded on, and we know that they're all threaded on correctly. Number 6, lug nuts can be brought down to contact only in any order. Now, Rudy's going to remind you that you might as well develop the good habits and do it in a star pattern, which is true.
Always star pattern.
Yeah, you might as well just get, only star pattern. Do yourself a favor. All I'm saying is when we bring down these lug nuts, we're not going to tighten them. We're not going to put any torque on them at all. All we're going to do is bring them down to contact, which is to say, touching, right? And we're going to say, contacto no más. Right? We're just going to bring them down to contact. We're not going to tighten them. So we're going to go zzz, click, zzz, click, zzz, click. Rudy's right. You should do it in a star pattern just in case. But we're just going to bring them down to contact. And then we put the impact away. You're done with the impact at that point. That's what people don't understand because they watch the professionals. This is how a real professional does it. You bring it down to contact, then you get a torque wrench. Tighten lug nuts evenly and in order. And that's the star pattern. So I've got 5 lug nuts right here. Sorry. And I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, if I had 4 lug nuts, I would go 1, 2, 3. Now, what if I don't start on this one? You can start on any one, I don't care. But the important thing is that you go across the hub and that you do it evenly. That's the important thing, that you do it evenly. You know, so you don't start at this one and go around like that. That's bad. On these ones, you're always going across the hub. You're skipping one stud. So you're going to tighten them evenly and in order to specification, right? Where do you get the specification? Discount Tires. Yeah. And then we're running over, so let me just do the last one. You got that? Sorry. The last one is, Rudy, do you remember what the last one is? The Rowcliffe thing?
The 6 lug or the 8 lug?
No, the last rule. The last rule.
No, I don't remember. Always double check your work.
Always do it twice. Yep. Look, folks, you're there with the torque wrench, and it would take 30 seconds to do it again, and then you wouldn't wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning saying, "Oh, what if I missed one?" Always do it twice. You know, do the star pattern once, do the star pattern again. That way, if you get distracted or your phone rings or somebody texts you or
you find Sancho jumping out of the window.
you see Sancho jumping out your window or something like that. It's easy to get distracted. So you always do these bolts twice, just for fun. It'll take you 30 seconds, and the peace of mind it gives you is amazing. And you know what? Once every 6 years, you're going to find out that you missed one. And you're going to say, "Thank you, Rowcliffe. You're the biggest jackass I ever knew, but you were right about that thing." True. You know, especially on wheels that have like 12 lug nuts or 10 lug nuts, it's very easy to miss one. Very easy to miss one. So always do it twice. You're there, you got the tool in your hand, it'll take you 30 seconds and you'll make an old man smile, which, you know, that's what life's all about, isn't it? Okay, so do you know how to use a click type torque wrench? Well, you're going to watch that video, right? But let me show you. The snap-on click is very subtle. He's going to show you too, and he makes a big issue out of it, which he should. All right, let's see. Huh. All right, watch. Ah, I'm gonna eat more hamburgers. There you go. Hear that? It's really subtle. What you're gonna see is that this straight line, this thing is gonna go boop. See that? That's all there is. The snap-on torque, the one thing I don't like about the snap-on click type is it's very subtle. So I guess it's depending on you to be a professional, but after you make that click, maybe you can hear that better. After you make that click, you gotta quit turning because it's already reached its torque setting. So it is currently 7:35. Sorry for going over, but are we back here at 7:50?
Sure.
Yeah.
So do you remember what I was talking about when I said be sure to tell me to
Record, or you're gonna tell us something
And then record.
and then record.
Yeah, I know, but what is it that I was trying to?
It was about
I think you were going to talk about the
Well, here we are. And great. It starts off with a bunch of dogs' butts. That's really nice. What's the bread, mongrels? Okay, so we're talking about wheel and tire service because after all, that's, so much of what we do. All right. Now, last thing I said was always do it twice. And that's true for me. That's true for everything, whether I'm doing a caliper or a valve cover or a cylinder head or anything. I'm always going to do it twice. But that comes from me being a professional mechanic, and because I used to build heavy equipment Allison transmissions, and these things have like 200 bolts, and if you left any one of those 200 bolts loose, there could be a disaster. Like thing could just like blow into pieces. So as a result, just to maintain my own peace of mind, I started coming up with this always tighten every bolt twice. And sure enough, like I said, every 3 or 4 years you're gonna see one that you missed. Hey, get God, them ruckus in here. They're rioting. Yeah, it's a mostly peaceful protest, but anyways, point I was trying to make was that's my theory on wheel and tire service. Now, hey, ouch. Golly. Sorry about that. All right, so what's what? Yeah. If only the protesters were that easy to get rid of. Hey Chuck, you got one of those?
What?
Flying tools, infrared thermometer?
Yeah, I got one.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do.
Come on, Chuck.
Show it to you. Harbor Freight has them.
Yeah, that's Harbor Freight. This is flying.
Well, I mean, I use that to check the rotors. When they come in hot, I can just do a quick check on each side, see if the temperature difference.
Yeah, that's very interesting, Chuck. I see where you're going with that. Okay. Good man. All right. So my question to you is, what's next? Anyone got any requests? It would be better if it was wheel and tire related.
Okay, question about the gauge. They sell like the little digital gauges to measure the PSIs, and then no,
I wouldn't. I don't like digital anything unless you're gonna buy something quality. I don't like digital anything.
So you want the one that has the little pin that tells you.
Yeah.
And what about the one that looks like a thermometer that sticks out? That one's unreliable too, right?
No. I mean, they're reliable enough, but I think they're hard to read.
Yeah, they're not good.
Yeah, I like the little dial ones. And,
little needle
the
one.
Dial one, okay.
You can get the dial one for like $5, but you got to keep it in your glove box. You can't be keeping it in your toolbox.
Right. Oh, yeah, it needs to be.
They get knocked off of value pretty easy. For $5, you can get it for $5 at an auto parts store, but I'll bet you could get them cheaper for Amazon. I did want to show you guys something. Yes, I did. Now that you mention it. Welcome back, everybody.
Have you noticed that they're starting to switch over all the tire stations where you fill up the air? They're all digital now. They're starting to switch them all out to digital.
Really?
At a lot of gas stations, they're taking out the old school ones and putting where you just put in like what the tire pressure is, and it'll automatically just stop.
Huh. Okay.
Input the tire pressure.
What was I
Also deflate if the tire's over pressured.
Right. $19. Now, what I would like, see, this is some Chinese thing. I don't know how good it is, but for $19 plus, you got an extra 6% coupon. So this thing is down around, $18. And it's auto ranging, which is what you really want in a meter. And seems to have a pretty big display, but I suspect this person's hand is very small because I'm worried that this thing's about the size of a donut. I really am. But, oh, look, see, you can wear it on your wrist. Chicks dig that, man. You go to a party, you got a DVOM on your wrist. You're like, man, he's ready for anything. It actually comes with, yeah, it actually comes with a wristband. What the hell? That is kind of cool, though. But it does have a temperature thing, so you can.
Oh, man, seriously.
So minute by minute, you can make sure you don't have coronavirus. And also, it has hertz, and also, are you ready for this? It has a non-contact voltage tester. Isn't that interesting? Now, are you going to trust your life to an $18 non-contact voltage tester? But yeah, it beeps and lights.
Nope.
Oh.
I mean, who knows? I mean, let's be frank. This is not a new design. I mean, they've been making them like this for 60 years. It's certainly not hard to build something like this. And if they've actually come up with, you know, a usable assembly, I mean, it's not any innovative design. And, you know, this type of stuff, if they're not innovating, they usually do pretty well, because after all, it's old technology. It's not anything special. So I was just thinking, you know, for 18 bucks, it's a good meter. Plus it's auto ranging, which is the big thing for me. And it seems to have a big display. I'm just worried about the size of this person's hand, because, you know, a lot of these things, they're really, really small. I don't really like these two ears, but that'll hold the leads. And it does do hertz, which is cool. Non-contact voltage, but that's only for like 120, 208, stuff like that. So anyway, I just saw that and I thought, man, that's cheap, because it's certainly cheap. I don't like any of the Harbor Freight meters at all, because some of them have big displays, which is awesome, but they're not auto ranging. And the ones that are auto ranging are so small that I think that they would be difficult to use. Let me see this one. Okay, so 40 bucks. Now, if you're going to get one of these for automotive use, you need to make sure that it does DC amps, because AC amps isn't going to do you any good. You need to make sure it does DC amps. Those of you who understand what I'm talking about. I mean, it's 40 bucks and it gets you in the game. Plus you save 10% off with a coupon, which is another $4. They're doing a lot of coupons. And it says that it will do DC amps. I saw the specs around here somewhere. It'll do AC amps too, but it'll do DC amps. Where are the specs? Come on now. Yeah, it'll do DC amps up to 400 amps, which means it'll do anything on the car, which is cool, because the starter, you know, can pull up to 250 amps. So you could check, you could do your alternators, you could do all kinds of stuff with this, checking the current inductively, which means you don't have to open up the circuit. That's bitching. If this thing's a good meter, that's cool. I got to tell you, you know, the right meter for this, I hate to say it, but I don't really hate to say it, but I'll show you the right meter for this. If you're going to buy one meter and you want it to last a lifetime and be your good friend, that's it right there, the Fluke 362. That's the one. Because remember, this way of measuring amperage, I don't even teach the other way of measuring amperage anymore. It's too dangerous for beginning students. It's not useful. And you know, 90% of what you're doing with that method anyway, you could do with this quicker. If you're gonna, you can get the Klein for like 60 or 70. That's why I thought that meter for, you know, 35 was interesting. But this is the one you really want. It's the Fluke 362. Does have a small display, unfortunately, but it does do DC amps, which is, I mean, we're all over DC amps. If we have something that'll measure DC amps, that's big medicine in this industry. And, you know, it's big enough for a battery cable, and that's all you need it for anyway.
The clamp is looks like it's more accessible too. It's smaller as opposed to the other ones. The clamp is big sometimes.
Exactly. Yeah. So That's what I suggest. If you're going to spend the money, you can get these for about 130 bucks brand new. They're probably 80 used.
That one actually seems more ideal for automotive.
Yeah, it really is. But I got this in a package, one package from Fluke that also has like a real meter with a big display, which I like. But anyways, we got to get out of meters because we ain't there yet.
I have something that maybe you might want to talk about. What about tire repair? Is that?
There you go. Okay, so here's the thing about tire repair. Couple of things you need to know about tire repair. Number one, no repairs on sidewalls. Now, what's the sidewall? Well, this part right here. In fact, I would go ahead and say within 1 inch.
Most shops will not repair anything in the roll of the tread either.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It has to be on the flat part of the tread or they will not repair it.
Right. So I would come like this, 1 inch. No repairs here. There's two types of repairs, and I got to tell you, one type of repair is awesome, but it's complicated. The other type of repair is marginal, but it's cheap and quick. If it works. So there's two types of repairs. There's patches and plugs.
And the best is a patch over a plug.
Do you think so?
Yeah, you plug the tire, then you dismount it, cut the plug on the inside, and patch it. Guaranteed to seal up that hole.
Yeah, I could just patch it and go down the road and not be too sad about it. Patches require tire dismounting, which means you have to remove the tire to put the patch in. But it's a far superior repair, because what happens on the patch is, provided that you prepare the surface correctly and do the job correctly, what happens with the patch is that the air pressure inside the tire is actually pushing the patch into the hole, which is why it doesn't tend to leak. Plugs, on the other hand, you're just, boring out a hole where the hole is in your tire, and then you're sticking this rubber cord with rubber cement in it into the hole and hoping that it expands far enough to repair the hole. To fill up the hole. Often does, if you do it right. Sometimes doesn't. It's not, I'm not even sure it's illegal in the state of California, but I've done it maybe once, maybe twice. It does mean you don't have to take the tire off. That's
maybe a few dozen times.
Yeah, this week. Yeah, sad to say. Well, yeah, I'll have to answer for that when I meet St. Peter. All right, so the patch requires tire dismounting, which means you're going to have to use the tire machine. If you have someone who's really good at that, that's fine. But if you have a special tire, like a low profile tire, a lot of times you can damage the tire doing this. That's why you need to make sure that somebody's good doing it. Somebody's very highly skilled, because a lot of these expensive tires, especially after they get old, they get hard and they're difficult. The low profile stuff is difficult to do anyway, and this just makes it 10 times worse. but it's definitely the right way to do it. I know that much. Well, we talked about low profile tires. So why don't we talk about sidewall markings? Is that enough on tire repair?
Sure.
Okay.
Let's use my tire size.
What?
255/55 R18.
Thank you. Okay, sidewall markings means the sidewall of the tire, you know, the part where you can't put a plug. Sidewall markings is the marking on the side of the tire. The main one is this. And the numbers go like this. That's the tread width in millimeters. And there's 25.4 millimeters to an inch. So that's about 10 inches wide, a little bit over 10 inches wide. All right, this is the hard one. So let's do this one first. That's wheel diameter.
Rim diameter.
Okay, wheel rim diameter. Sure. R means radial. Pretty much all your tires are going to be radial these days. Unless you're trying to go for old school, you know, you got a Superbird 69 or 70. This is the hard one for people. That's called aspect ratio. Remember, this is wheel diameter, not tire diameter. This is aspect ratio, which basically means
It's a percentage base of the width of the wheel.
yeah, it's sidewall height over tread width. And I don't have a calculator. Yes, I do. But I'm nervous and I have stage fright, so now I don't know how to do it. But that means that in Rudy's case, it's going to be 55 equals sidewall height over 255. Now, anybody here know math?
Yeah, so you multiply both sides by 255, you get the sidewall height.
See? See? That's my tocayo right there. Okay, so 55 times 255. Yeah, so I'll cross that out. And I don't understand why I don't know that. I've been taught it 50,000 times. Equals 14,025. But what's that number? Can't be right. Can't be right. It's got to be less. That can't be right. Whatever. It's got to be, the number's got to end up with like something like 150.
Multiply the width times the height.
God damn it, that's it. Anyways, yeah. 13 years of college. Well, I was mostly just there for the, you know, because I went to UCLA. I got a 4.0 at UCLA, so my doctor went to UCLA too. And I saw his diploma on the wall, and I said, "Hey, doc, you know, I went to UCLA too. I got a 4.0. He looked at me and he said, "Man, I didn't do that well." I said, "You know what the secret is? You got to take easier classes." So, anyways, I call my sister. My sister was a math major.
Okay.
You tell who the black
So
sheep is.
it's 255 divided by 255.
No, you know what it is? It's 255 times 0.55. I'm so dumb. Never mind. Never mind. 255 times 0.55.
It's a percentage.
Neil Hatch, it's 140.25. Okay. All right. Doggone it. So the sidewall height has got to equal 140.25 millimeters. Doggone it. Neil Hatch taught me that. He died. Did you know Neil Hatch died, Rudy?
I heard that.
Yeah. Good guy. Good guy.
Yeah, too bad. He was a great teacher.
Generous guy. Yeah. Especially after enduring me. So the point I was trying to make was that's what those sidewall markings mean. Now, I did point out that this is wheel diameter, not tire diameter. So let me show you two equally sized tires. One of them goes like this. And one of them goes like this. The tire diameter is the same. But the wheel diameters are different. This is the thing about aspect ratio. As you can see on this wheel, the wheel is very small, but the tire is very tall. As a result, there's a whole lot of air in this tire. As a result, when you go over bumps, you're not really going to feel it very much. But also, when you go into a corner, this thing is going to, it's going to deform. Roll. Yeah, sure. This has got a large aspect ratio, like 78s. Back when we used to put stock on all the cars in the 60s. Yeah. Now, this is like,
like your
thing. This would be like a 30 or a 25.
Yeah, probably a 25.
Be like a 78. This is exaggerated, but the point I'm trying to make was that when you go into a corner, this sidewall is not going to flex like this one. However,
but you're going to feel every bump.
Every rock in the road you go up, you drive over, you're going to feel it because there's very little air between the road and the wheel. So this is a very low aspect ratio. This is a very high aspect ratio. That's even with the same tire diameter. That's what we wanted to show with that. And you can do the same illustration, I guess, with equal size wheels and just use a large. Oh, yeah, maybe I should do that because I got to show you something important about that. You got this? Okay. Yeah, this is what I need to show you about that. So Rudy goes down to the wheels and tire shop because he saw Rockless Vet and he wanted to be cool too. So this is what came stock on Rudy's car. That's the 70 aspect ratio.
35, 60, R18.
Right. But see, Rudy wants to get 30 aspect ratio like his Hero Rockliffe, so he goes like that. Same wheel. Did not change the wheel. But what happened to the tire diameter?
It shrunk.
Tire diameter went way down. As a result,
speedo off.
What's it what?
Throw your speedo off badly.
Not only is it going to throw your speedometer off, it's also going to throw off your odometer. I wonder if they're going to start doing odometers based on GPS. That would be smarter. That way you couldn't mess with them. I'm going to have to think about that. I just thought of that, but I'm going to have to think about that one. Anyway, yeah, this is going to throw your speedometer off. Plus, it's going to make your car look stupid, but it's going to throw your speedometer off. Like, for instance, if you got a 65 Mustang, came with 14-inch wheels, if you put low-profile tires on it, the car looks stupid. That's why people will get bigger wheels when they put on low-profile tires like 17s. Yeah. So watch out for this because it'll throw your speedometer off. Now, this will also give you better acceleration, more torque, but it will give you less top end. Now, what a lot of people do, you know, truckers, mini truckers, and people that want to put four-wheel drive, you know, they got a wheel this big, got a wheel this big. Well, it's the same size wheel, but the stock wheel goes like this because that's a 70, it's a stock. But what they end up doing is they end up putting on big off-road tires. That's going to throw off your speedo. Yeah, sure. 38s, 37s,
40s.
okay, 38s, yeah. That is going to throw off your speedo, but it's also going to kick your torque in the ass, which is why usually when they put on these big tires like this, they go in the differential and they change the gears.
Yep.
Because otherwise it's gutless, you know, but it'll probably do 150. I wouldn't do 150 in it, but it will. That's for trucks. That's for cars. Just things to think about because it's going to change things. And if anything that changes your wheel diameter is going to change your speedometer and odometer relationship. Usually you'd have to go in there and change a gear in your transmission.
Is it true that it affects gas mileage too?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. This is going to get you better gas mileage, but it'll give you less power. It'll go faster. This is going to get you a lot more low-end torque, so it's going to feel like it made your car faster because it did, but it's also going to be running at a higher RPM when you're going 60 miles an hour, which is going to make your gas mileage go down. Yeah. It's all about tire diameter. So tires can make a big difference. You just got to understand the relationship between, you know, wheel diameters, tire diameters, all kinds of stuff like that, because it gets complicated quick. Now, it used to be you could go in and change a gear in your transmission, but I'm suspecting, does this require a reprogram on a modern vehicle?
Yes.
More than likely.
Yeah, that's one of the problems with modifying these modern vehicles. Very quickly, it turns into a reprogram. And I got to tell you, if you're not careful, you go in to get your car smog inspected, the moment it reads reprogram, it's bounce.
No, not always.
Not always, but you know.
Because like I had to have the Dodge reprogrammed and it didn't flag the truck at all.
Well, that's because it probably has an exclusion for buckets.
No, there's not.
Yeah. I mean, they're more fastidious about the newer stuff because, you know, people are going crazy with the newer stuff. All right, so that's what you need to know about that. However, there's also other sidewall markings called traction, temperature,
And speed rating.
no, and doggone it, stage fright. Traction, temperature, and tread wear. See? And these are ratings that the tire is going to get. So it could be 100, 200, 300, 400. It's also got letter grades. What page is this in the book? Because I want to get it right. Since I'm on camera, I actually care. Ish. There's a book. Doggone it. Well, I got it here somewhere.
Live for big style and even more off-road.
All right, doggone it. That's it. And I got the book handy because I can't find mine. Well, I can just look it up online. All right, let's do that. You guys probably didn't even buy the book. What kind of students are you?
Not yet.
What teacher are you? Okay, so Tire sidewall ratings. Ooh, where is it at? Where is it at? Thank God for professionals.
So on page 171.
Yeah, but I don't have my stupid
Oh.
book with me. Sorry. Okay, so how does it go?
Didn't you just pass it?
Probably. That's for motorcycles.
No, it was up more. Right there, isn't that? Oh no, that's something else. Where it says treadwear grade, treadwear 520 traction A, temperature A. The left.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Thank you, sir. All right, so treadwear, for instance, is 520. That's on a scale of 100, so that means that tire is going to last a long time. Traction is A, which is good because it goes A, B, C, D. Probably A, B, C. Traction means how well is it going to stick to the road? Treadwear means how long is the tread going to last? Because usually what they used to do back in the olden days is you can get very good traction with a very soft tire compound, but the problem is it wears out very quickly. So what we're looking for is we're looking for as good a grades on these numbers as we can get. Temperature refers to how fast you can go with it. Because temperature means how hot is it going to get as you go fast. And as you can see up here, there's also a speed rating. And that's STH. Of course, it's all in kilometers per hour. Doggone it, VZ. That's the best thing about shooting from the hip. Speed. Oh, how about that? Should have followed my instincts. There we go. Now, ZR, that means you can go over 150 miles an hour. Technically, my Z06 has a top speed of 204 miles an hour, but not with me in it. I would be too scared. So you're going to see, sometimes you hear Z-rated tires or Y, up to 186 miles an hour. That's what I had on the silver one. Maybe they're on the red one now. Anyway, speed rating refers to how fast you can go on these tires, because if they get too hot, they're just going to explode. And how many explode? What?
Road Cliff needs all white tires.
I do. Quack. And then, yep. Looks terrifying. Exotic sports cars, yeah, so that's what I need. Quack. Let us look at load ratings. And folks, you can be sure to supplement your discussion tonight with the appropriate parts of the book. Tire load rating, chapter 14. Load index. See, it says maximum load 1,300 pounds, maximum pressure 35 psi. Now, if this can hold 1,300 pounds and you got 4 tires that are the same, you just multiply that by 4, it'd be 5,200 pounds. And you'll find out that that's not very much if you carry a lot of load. Now, here's the thing. Write that down, load rating. We also have, you see it says right here, 4 plies. 4 plies means how many layers? It's like plywood. How many layers? 4 ply tends to be car tires. 8 plies would be like real truck tires and trailer tires. I think trailers can be like 10 plies, can't they?
10,
Yeah.
10, 12.
Why? Yeah. Why do they
Or
keep it?
higher.
Because it's gonna make it stronger. Yeah. More plies means it can carry more weight. It's just like plywood. Yep. Now that thing right there is actually a placard, tire placard that you might find on the B pillar, or in this case, this is on a truck. Date 301, that makes it a 01 model year. Gross vehicle weight rating, 8,800 pounds. And that's LT 265 75 R16Es on the front and on the back. Now 16 times 7 rims, so that's 16 inches in diameter and 7 inches wide at 60 psi cold, and the backs are supposed to be at 70 psi cold. That's interesting because they got less weight on them, I would imagine. Okay, so the point I wanted to make was certain tires. Let me flip back. Boy, there's a lot to tires. There you go. So we got speed rating, we got load rating, we got plies. And then we're gonna have like P235 70 R18. And we're gonna have LT 235 70 R18. Well, what's the difference? The P is passenger.
Extra.
And the LT is light truck. Now, what many people do with their trucks is when they see how expensive real truck tires are, they just put passenger tires on their trucks. If you load up a truck with passenger tires on it, you're asking for trouble. Now, what are you going to do about this? We got a bunch of cheap Chinese tires, and we got a bunch of expensive tires. What do you think, Rudy? I got a better idea. Let's ask my good friend Chuck. What do you think?
I want the cheap Chinese tires, man.
Spend the money.
Quality.
Life depends on the tire.
I'll bet my life on it.
Yeah, true. Very true. True. Yep. All right, you got that?
I run Coopers on my Flex.
Okay, Mr. Moneybags. Well,
They're only $800 a set
of 4?
of 4, and I'm on my 9th set.
Sound like crap tires to me. That means you're only getting 20,000 miles out of each set?
I got 231,000 on the car.
Yeah, so you're getting like 23,000 miles per set?
With my driving habits.
That sounds like they suck, unless you're going sideways the whole time.
You know me.
Yeah, I do. And I still talk to you anyway, which just goes to show I have a good heart. All right. Run flats. Now, every Corvette is supposed to have run flat tires. Run flat tires are very expensive. What's a run flat tire? Well, let me show you. You know, if I could do this faster, it'd be amazing. Run flat tires. There it is. Run flat tires. Well, there's a couple of different ways that run flat tires work. This one has a plastic insert with a bunch of chambers in it. And this one just has, well, you can see that one. Basically what they're saying is that you can drive these cars even if the tire loses air. And some of these are claiming you can run them at 60 miles an hour, but yeah, I'm not sure I would. But every Corvette is supposed to have run flat tires because after all, they don't have a spare tire. But run flat tires are kind of expensive. Kind of expensive. In fact, some people are claiming that you can go 50 miles an hour with a run flat. I wouldn't. And you know what? Oh, see that? Kind of weird. Scotty Kilmer.
Just don't.
You know, I think this guy's a millionaire now. Because it may be a bunch of crap, but I saw a video of him like, this is my car collection. It's like, damn, dude. And if you think about it, he's been doing videos for a long time and he's got a lot of followers. He may very well be an internet millionaire, but yeah. So he says, don't buy run flat tires for your car. And if Scotty Kilmer don't know, who knows? Yeah. So here's the thing though. If the car has run flat tires on it, it's worth a lot more than a car that doesn't, because what happens with most Corvette owners is they see how expensive the run flat tires are and they're like, well, I'll just put regular tires on it. Hope for the best. Get Auto Club, right? So, I mean, the difference between regular tires and run flat tires, now they usually put on tires that have better performance than run flat tires. Run flat tires are not known for their performance unless you let all the air out of the tire. But that's one of the options. One of the things we have to look for when we're looking at a used car is we have to look at the condition and quality of the tires. Because, you know, there's a huge difference between these Chinese tires you can get for $70 and, you know, Michelin's that cost $380. I mean, that's, you know, $400 a tire times 4 is $1,600 just worth of tires. So a lot of times people will sell their old cars when they need 4 new tires because they don't feel like spending over $1,000 to put new tires on it. Things to think about. What we need to do, the hard part is we need to slow down when we're looking at a used car. Problem is when we find what we really want, we get all excited and we start making stupid mistakes. Yeah, that's a problem. At least that's my problem. So that's run flat tires. Let me go back here. There we go. So if it's got run flats or it doesn't have run flats, you need to be aware of that, especially if you're looking at buying. What else we got on tires? All weather. There are summer tires, like for Corvettes, they do have summer tires. They're fair weather tires when you're not expecting a lot of rain or snow. But it makes it very difficult to drive those in all weather. Most people are going to drive all weather tires. They degrades the performance during the summer, but at least it makes it possible to drive it when it's snowing or raining heavily or something like that.
Is there brands we need to know about? Or not really.
You got any big preference, Rudy?
Michelin's.
Michelin's, imported from France.
Whatever gets you the best deal and is quality enough to actually sustain your car.
Where are you going? Costco?
I buy mine through Pep Boys.
Really?
Yep. I buy them right here in Ukaipa with Road Hazard. It costs me $900 a set.
To go 20,000 miles?
Yeah, well, I've already learned.
All right. Now, when you're changing tires, you're going to change that valve stem too, right? You should. If you don't,
Negative.
why?
Negative. On a TPMS valve one, you do not replace.
Right, right. Okay, so let me make this blank.
Runs TPMS valve stems.
Yep.
You do not replace the valve stems on that type of tire.
Yes, my dear.
However, if you do not have a valve stem TPMS, you should be replacing that valve stem.
Right. All right, so this goes like this. That's a valve stem. Oh, Chuck, I saw someone on Diagnostic Network was selling 2 of those TPMS units, Autels, for 130 bucks a piece. Yes, sir. Now, if they don't come with the sensors, are you going to buy it anyway?
I'd buy them with the sensors.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. But hey, are you on Diagnostic Network? You should be.
I haven't looked it up lately. I've been kind of busy doing other things, but yeah, I should get on there.
Good. Doing happy things, or hope so.
I just replaced the roof on my house, and I'm a roofer now.
Wow, look how dark you got. Oh, yeah, you picked a perfect time to do the freaking roof on your house.
I know.
190 degrees. What the hell?
Yep.
Yeah, you look like you've been pretty well roasted. Okay, so this thing right here is the TPMS. That's tire pressure monitoring system. Hey, you know, I always have minions if you need a minion. Good quality minions too. That's the sensor itself. It goes inside the wheel. And what it does is it reports to the car what the tire pressure is. Do these ever go bad?
Yep.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Do they get old and die?
Usually the battery goes out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, what's the tire pressure monitoring system doing? It's continuously monitoring your tire pressure to make sure, well, basically, that you don't get a flat tire and not feel it, because that's insanely dangerous and, you know, potentially very expensive. Because when I got that bolt in the back tire of my, you know, Corvette, it's like that was on the freeway. And the only reason I knew that that happened is because the tire pressure monitoring thing came up on my dashboard and I was losing a PSI per minute. Like, damn, but I wouldn't have known otherwise, and I probably would have destroyed the $300, $400 tire plus the Z06 rim. So that could have been horrifying, terrible. TPMS is a great system. It really makes a big difference. Remember though, I just found out that on Nissans, at least at 5,000 miles, it turns on the TPMS light. Like you're just supposed to do a visual inspection or something like that. Does that happen on other cars, Rudy?
Not on the Ford Flex.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, but that's 10 years old, right?
No, it's 8.
Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm. So TPMS sensor, there's different types, but this is a very common type. As you can see, it's got the valve stem on it with a nut right here. That's how it attaches a couple of seals. But what I wanted to ask you about was air and nitrogen.
Nitrogen is way better.
Green cap. What's in air? Air is 71% nitrogen, and it's like what, 29% oxygen or something? I don't believe that. No, it's 78. It's 78 and 21. Sorry.
Something like that.
Well, here's the problem. See, Chuck, here it comes. All 13 years of college, oxygen is very reactive. We know that because combustion is an oxygen reaction. We know that if we're in the presence of sparks, we need to keep oxygen away. For instance, Apollo 8 or 1, they had 100% oxygen environment and they got a spark and the whole thing went up and those poor guys were freaking grilled to death. We know that oxygen is insanely reactive. For instance, rust is FeO3, ferric oxide. That means that the oxygen has attacked the iron. It's insanely reactive, especially when it gets hot. Rust is my dad used to say violent rust. And I was like, I laughed at the time, but he's right. He's right. Like if you look at what salt water does to corrode stuff, oxygen is insanely reactive. And what that means is that it will interact with other chemicals. For instance, turning copper green, that's an oxidation reaction. So oxygen is insanely reactive. And the problem is with air is that it's 21% oxygen. So reactive means when you put it in a tire, it's going to react to different temperatures pretty violently. And as a result, what happens is when it's hot outside, your tire pressure goes up. When you've driven a lot or you're driving fast, your tire pressure goes up.
Or it's cold, it goes down.
Yeah, exactly. As a result, your tire pressure is changing a lot, and that can't be good for your tire wear. It just can't. So what modern places are doing is they're filling your tire just with nitrogen, because nitrogen is insanely not reactive.
$40 to have your tires drained and filled with nitrogen only.
How are they draining the tire? Are they evacuating it?
They deflate the tire and then fill it with nitrogen, deflate a little, and refill it with more nitrogen. Because nitrogen will push the oxygen to the outer edge. So therefore, they'll fill it with nitrogen, and then they'll bleed off a little bit, and then they'll refill it with nitrogen again to the correct PSI, and then your tires are filled with nitrogen. Keeps your tires cooler, makes them last longer, and doesn't change as much.
True. I don't know about your explanation, but because, to get all the oxygen out, you would have to do the same thing you do with an air conditioning system, right? Get a vacuum pump and suck it all out.
Yeah, well, I'm just telling you what I've seen them do when I've had my tires filled.
Yeah, so what they're doing is they're getting less oxygen. The less oxygen, the better, really. And it also won't, corrode all your stuff because that's what oxygen does. See, what you need to understand about rust, FeO3, it's an oxidation reaction, just like combustion is. So basically what rust is a very slow form of burning. That's a trip. That's a trip when you think of it that way. It's a very slow version of burning, over years as opposed to immediate. Like magnesium, for instance, if you have a magnesium fire and you pour water on it, it's actually going to pull the oxygen out of the water and that's why they quit using magnesium wheels in race cars. Because if it starts on fire, come out there, spray water on it, and just be a tearing inferno. Anyways, the point I was trying to make was that usually if the tire's filled with nitrogen, they're going to give it a green cap.
And it actually keeps your tires cooler over the life.
And it doesn't fluctuate the pressure as much, which has got to be good for it. If you don't check, as I said earlier to begin this lecture, if you're not checking your tire pressure 2 times a year, now it's easy to check your tire pressure, folks. Just get out there and start pushing the buttons, and it'll tell you the tire pressure. But if you're not checking your tire pressure 2 times, what? If you're not checking your tire pressure 2 times a year, chances are good you're going to be running overinflated during the summer and underinflated during the winter, and as a result, your tires won't last as long as they're supposed to. Because I don't get these 80,000 mile things because, first of all, I probably won't be owning this car 80,000 miles from now, but besides, if they're rear tires, they won't have any rubber on them left after about 5,000. That was a joke.
No, it's not.
Oh man, that car is so stupid. It'll do a rolling burnout from like 50. Ridiculous. Oh, I mean, in GTA.
That's why
GTA.
you enjoy them so much.
Nah. Yeah. Well, you know, you never know. Did I tell you? Okay, so the surgery on my leg for the varicose veins, I got the statement of benefits. It cost $23,000 for like a 45-minute surgery. And that wasn't even the kidney stone. So yeah.
Just imagine what my hip replacement cost.
Yeah, seriously. So get insurance. We got to get insurance, which means we got to get better jobs. We're going to get better jobs when we understand the world better. Yeah. So one of the things we're trying to do in this class is we're trying to understand the world better, because after all, the world is a mechanical place. Yeah. And as we understand how mechanical things work, we are going to do better in the world. Okay. What else? Make sure you put that cap on, please, folks, because if you don't, water's going to get into this valve and kind of jack it up. Not good. Not a good look. So watch the how to use a torque wrench video that I talked about. Did everyone write that down? So yeah, rev match, something like that. Okay. Now, one of the things I didn't like about the rev match video is that he buys this cheap torque wrench and he says, yeah, here, use this. I'm like, I don't know. To me, a torque wrench is a precision measuring instrument, and you know, it's like buying a cheap micrometer. Who knows? You could sneeze on it hard and change the reading. Let's see. Now, here's something you need to understand. Cross section. Did we talk about the different views? Let's do that quick. Did we talk about the different views, like side view and front view? All right. This right here is side view. That means you're looking at it from the side. I'll just go through this really quick because I got something I really want to talk about. That right there is front view. Coronavirus. That is rear view, looking at it from the back. And this thing right here is top view. Well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a wheel like this. And I'm going to cut it in half like that. Like with a saw. And what I end up with is the tire that goes like this. And a wheel that comes around like this. That's the tire. That's the wheel. This is called a cross section. Just means like you cut it in half. It allows you to see what's on the inside. You can see where the tire and the wheel stick together, and the air kind of pushes the tire to see it make the seal. That's called a cross section. Good. It's going to be perfect. All right. There's one thing about wheels that you need to understand, because people are always putting custom wheels on their vehicles, and it causes problems if you don't do it right. Now, I suggest to you that you go to Rent-A-Center or Rent-A-Wheels or something like that, whatever it is, and you use their guidebooks, because if you don't, the chances of you screwing up are big. Like, I don't think you, I mean, you can bolt Camaro wheels to your Corvette, but I don't think you're going to be happy with it because of this thing we call offset. And offset refers to where the vertical part of the wheel is in relation to the center of the wheel. So when you get this, let me know, because then I'll go to the next page. This is a big deal, especially if you want your car to look nice when you put custom wheels on it. Because if you get the offset wrong, your car's going to look stupid. Besides, it might, you know, scrape or bump or choke every time you go around a corner. Offset's a big deal. In fact, offset is really the most important thing when it comes to putting custom replacement wheels on a vehicle. You got that? Let me show you. Here's the hub right here. You know, it's got the studs coming out.
And most of your car people are trying to put the huge lip up front. So they're using a lot of negative back spacing.
Mm-hmm. Now, you can have one cross section like this. Remember, all I did was I took a wheel and I cut it in half. So this is a wheel. And I can have another one where I do the opposite. And I'm sure that if you look up offset on the internet, you can get a more advanced understanding of it. But all offset refers to is where, in relation to center, where is the wheel hub going to bolt to? As you can see, if you put these wheels where it used to have these wheels,
Mounting surface.
they're gonna be much further apart. Right here's the center line, the center of the wheel, an imaginary line. If this part where the wheel hub mounts is on the center line, that's considered zero offset. If it goes this way, it's negative. If it goes the other way, it's positive. And you better know those numbers if you're going to try to put something on a Flex or a Corvette or any type of cars.
That first wheel, the one closest to the hub, has a positive offset, and the other one has a negative offset.
Mm-hmm. And this is the killer, because what happens is you go on OfferUp and you say, man, I really like those wheels, but you know, say they come off an Impala and you try to put them on a Camaro and you can't even sit in the car without them rubbing the wheels. That is a sad day. So this is the big deal when it comes to buying wheels.
And please do not add spacers into the wrong set of wheels either.
What's a spacer? Well, it looks like this. And it's got wheel studs coming out of it. And then in here, you bolt up to the studs on the vehicle. People use spacers because they got the offset on the wheels wrong. As you can imagine, it's not the best solution. In fact, it's not a really good one. But it's because, you know, people see the wheels and they let their eyes get ahead of their brain. Also, Rudy, if I was going to put dually wheels on the Suburban, wouldn't I have to run some kind of spacers?
Negative. All you would have to do is get the right set of wheels that have the right offset, and you will reverse face one of the wheels.
Right.
So you put, like, for example, you'd use the positive face one in the back inside and the negative one outside.
Right.
And you have to use longer studs, like your actual studs themselves have to be longer to accommodate both wheels. But no, you do not have to put any spacers in it.
So I'd have to pull the axles then
No, well,
to put in the longer studs?
yeah.
Plus, I'd have to get fenders, right?
Yeah, you'd also have to get the fender flares for it, the dually rear fenders. Plus, cut all the body work up to accommodate that fender flare.
I could have Chuck do it. He just seems to be capable of getting things done.
That's exactly what I would want to do if I got your Suburban. I'd want to seriously cut the rear end up and make it a dually Suburban and drop it. Because I don't care about the off-road. I just care about the four-wheel drive.
Why do you care about the four-wheel drive if you don't care about off-road?
Because where I'm moving is going to be in snow.
Yeah, true. Okay.
So I want the four-wheel drive for the snow, but I don't care about actually going off-road with it.
Yeah, hopefully.
So I would lower it and then make it a dually so I have better carrying capacity on the tongue weight of the truck.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. Okay, anything else, folks? Because we're
With
getting
a good set of aftermarket dually wheels with some nice street, all seasons, perfect.
stock dually wheels are easy to come by with tires on them because everybody changes them out. So they're cheap. They're like $600 for a full set with tires.
Yeah, with good tires.
Yeah. But you know, if you want to modify vehicles, there'll always be more to do. I don't. I just want them to start when I turn the key.
Because all of a sudden it doesn't have enough power for what you want or enough torque for what you want. And well, I better change the gear ratio so I get better gas mileage, but keep my torque capability and
change the wheel tire diameter. Yeah.
Change the wheels and tires and all kinds of stuff.
What we're trying to do, folks, is we're trying to cover the big subject of motor vehicles as efficiently and quickly as we can, because we got 60 hours per semester and we want to blast through 3 hours of work every night. And I think we've done that tonight, I'm happy to say. You can supplement your learning tonight with readings from the book, would be my suggestion, and also YouTube videos. Do me a favor and watch that torque wrench video so you get a pretty good idea of how to run the torque wrench, because we got to get back in the shop. Did I tell you that the director of county public health, LA County, said that the lockdowns will end after the election? What the hell? Yeah, he actually said that out loud. Anyways, folks, I'm hoping we'll get back in the shop soon. I sure appreciate your coming and spending some time with me. I will see you Thursday Gigante, yeah?
Cool. Thank you.
Thanks so much, folks. Sure appreciate it.
Call me when you get off.
What?
Call me when you get off.
All right, good, man.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks, guys.